Eligible for financial assistance for 36 months or 3 years from the date they enter the country.
After you're in the country for 36 months, you are terminated, whether you have any income or not.
Once they enter the country, much of what happens to them is determined by the voluntary agencies. Some of the agencies are religious, some of them
Marshall
are
Hurley, Professor of Anthropology, University of Washington.
Agencies that assist in refugee relocation. Throughout the whole process of relocation, there has never been any policy of trying to resettle urban refugees in urban areas or rural refugees in rural areas. If there's been any policy at all, it's been to scatter refugees widely throughout the country so that they'll assimilate and become American as quickly as possible. What's happened as a result of that is pre-literate hill farmers find themselves living in the middle of urban American cities. And perhaps they had no expectation at all as to what city life is like, as to what skills are necessary to live in cities. They had no expectations that they would be living among strangers. They didn't really know what they were getting into.
Li Vang, a distant cousin of Sue's and an exceptional student of English, has been here for 5 years. He still remembers what it's like being a newcomer.
The first time we come into Seattle, I looked around and there's all this big building. It turned out to be a whole big city, you know, where everything is people, and you go and there's only movies and theaters and people and cars and freeways, you know. There are so many different people in this country, black, whites, and Asians, and Filipinos, and a lot of people like that. And you look at them and you feel like they, even though they're different, they still belong there because they speak so much English. I didn't know how to speak the language, and I feel foreign, you know. I feel like I was a foreigner. It makes me feel like I have a problem that I can't solve, speaking the language and knowing them and just socialize with them. I remember this place in our country, in Laos. There's this plain, you know, just green, plain green grass, and you sit there and watching the water is coming from the mountain, and it just comes down so nicely, and you can hear only the sound of water and birds, you know, flying, and you wish that you were there with your girls and your boyfriend, and it's a feeling where you feel like you want to dream, you know. It's better not to think about it. If you think about it, it'll make you feel very sad.
Most of them start out being quite confused. When Hmong people lived in Laos, they grew their own food, they slaughtered their own animals, they hunted for meat in the forest. And when they come into a grocery store in the U.S., what they see is not food, but boxes, things wrapped in cellophane, things wrapped in plastic. And it really takes a while before people understand that these are things that you're supposed to eat.
Is this the soap? What kind of meat is this? It's all covered up. Is it a cow or a pig? Oh, good. Oranges. Let's take a bag and hurry home. Don't take too many.
Do we have money to pay for these things? Do I put the money in here?
$11.63. Okay, I need more. It's $11.63. This is 10. Out of 20. $8.37 is your change. There's 8. Thank you. 75, 89, 49.
Money. Good. Good. It's nickel. It's nickel. It's nickel. Read it.
The English as a Second Language class, called ESL, attempts to leap the greatest hurdle most refugees face: speaking English. Refugees used to receive over a year's language training funded by a block grant to the state. It has recently been cut in half. Unlike many European immigrants who have faced the language challenge in America, the Hmong come from a pre-literate tradition. They had no alphabet until 30 years ago, when missionaries introduced a written notation to them. Most Hmong have never studied language in school. They have a different way of expressing verb tense and plurals in their native tongue. 6 months of classes barely scratch the surface of their need for language training. Rebecca Tesdell.
For most refugees who are in English classes, it takes probably a couple of years to get to a point where they can function comfortably in English, and even longer to prepare themselves for any kind of training or jobs.
Read it.
Hey, a quarter. Jumbo balloons a quarter. 25 cents. A mile long and a yard wide, a quarter.
Oh, for God's sake.
Hey, a quarter. Quarter.
After 3 months in the U.S., Chow and Hmong are introduced to the public market in Midtown Seattle.
Hi, your fresh fish here. Come on.
Renee Taylor, director of the Indo-Chinese Women's Program at the YMCA, has been working with refugee women for the last 3 years.
The Indo-Chinese Women's Program as part of its second week, takes a field trip down to the public market.
Most of the women don't have a lot of experience using some of the modern appliances and equipment that we have in the United States. They don't know how to take the bus. They don't know how our money system is set up. They don't know really how to go shopping. They don't really even know what would go in the refrigerator, what goes in a cupboard. You don't put chicken in the toaster, which is kind of a universal joke around here. I guess somebody trying to do that.
Lemon. What color is that? Yellow. Good. And what is this?
Housekeeping in general, when you're used to a dirt floor and you've got to deal with rugs, how do you even clean them? I heard of one family who would just kind of hose down their living room down the heating vent. I mean, they would just kind of they thought that was where the dust went. I am constantly hearing things that just make me go, oh my gosh, why didn't I think of that? They tend to carry a lot of money on their person because in their own country, a sign of wealth is wearing all this beautiful jewelry and this beautiful stitchery. That's a sign of status. They're very vulnerable. They don't know that people just can't walk into your house. A lot of times they'll be sitting around and somebody will walk into their house and take things. And they don't know what's accepted and what's not in our culture, so they're really afraid to insult someone. They think maybe somebody's going to send them back or whatever. So they aren't real sure what our culture is all about.
And many Americans are not sure what the refugees are all about.
I think that the government is getting kind of out of hand by letting all these refugees come over here. They have to give out so much money to the refugees. That's the reason that they're cutting out a lot of the programs and things like this.
You know, you read the paper every day and you read about refugees and you read about wars, and in my mind, I never connected with who is really the victim of all that.
The kids get on your nerves, and the people don't understand English very well.
They're not too clean.
These folks used to live in a bamboo house with palm fronds on the top and dirt roads, and their refrigerator was a cool place down the river.
They lived 19 in one bedroom. You know, we couldn't do that. I couldn't even get a one-bedroom apartment with me and my son.
When the kids step out their door, they don't maybe go back all day. In a little village where everyone is there to watch you, that probably works great. But in this city,
they don't have nothing to play with, nothing to do. They play with the broken glass. They get in those dumpsters. They eat those sticker bushes back there. They fight over them to eat them. You know, it's just, they don't need to be here.
They were pushed out of their country. They didn't, particularly dream while they were in Laos of coming to the United States and living it up with cars and Big Macs and nice apartments near the water and stuff like that.
Several of the women each quarter have been either raped or assaulted.
We were accosted by a group of teenagers who were yelling at them, "You're Vietnamese, we're going to fix you." And they're saying, no, we're Lao.
Sometimes I'd like to pack them up and ship them back where they came from.
Certain that in their hearts they would like to be in the hills of Laos again.
They need to be in the country, like in Kent, or something, because they like to grow the vegetables and stuff like this here, Everything they like to do, they can't do everything in the city. This don't make no sense. It's probably worse here than it was, where they came from.
See, the Hmong have a saying that if there's always a piece of ground, they will never go starving. They will have to worry about getting some money in Laos because there's no job. You work for yourself, They don't call that a job. They just say go and work, You don't worry about something that you're doing for them and you get paid. You just worry about your own stomach, when it's going to be empty, when it's going to be full, When they come to this country, the only thing they talk about is if you don't have a job to support your family, then you will be starving. Everything is so modern, everything is done by machine, not by manual work, and they worry about, I don't even speak the language, and I won't be even qualified for the job than a regular American person. They're not the type of people who have education, they're only a tribal people. It really makes them feel depressed,
there seem to be few attempts to channel traditional Hmong skills toward productive employment. The batik and reverse applique work of the women, however, is receiving attention in craft circles. Hmong and Chaws have been asked to sell their work with a Hmong crafts group at an international district street fair. While the U.S. refugee population is going up, Congress's appropriation for refugees is going down, 29% down as of the 1981-82 fiscal year. The welfare assistance supporting refugees may soon be cut from, since 60% of the nation's refugees live in 40 counties in 10 states. Schools, hospitals, police, and welfare agencies in those localities will shoulder an added burden. Sue doesn't like the idleness afforded him by the welfare checks. He wants to work, but he doesn't even know what he can do within the American working context.
You looking for what?
Job.
A job?
Yeah.
You speak it in English?
Yes.
How much?
I don't know.
You don't know? You don't speak any English. I can't help you.
Yeah.
You can't get a job here. You'll have to go somewhere else, you know?
No.
Yes. You'll have to go somewhere else. I can't help you. There's no job here.
No.
No job.
Yeah.
No job.
Yes.
Bob Johnson, Director of International Rescue Committee, Seattle.
It's not just refugees are being cut off. It's essentially all poor people are being given reduced options by the federal government. And it's going to particularly boil down to the refugee population because they are probably the most vulnerable of all the low-income groups. They're less educated to our system. They're less sophisticated. They have less capability of finding their own jobs. So their resources are pretty strapped as is. So we're looking at big problems. To me, it's sort of an absolute crime that refugees were brought in 1975, given an unspecified period of time to become educated and get jobs. Those people were the educated refugees for the most part, the Vietnamese, and later, through the years, since 1975, the less sophisticated, less educated groups have come in, and now the length of time is being cut back. And people are going to be really scrambling, predict a lot of problems. Already the food banks are being utilized by refugees, which creates potential for racial strife. People are sort of beginning to scramble at the bottom level.
Everybody, come on, everybody.
Bus.
Girl.
Man.
Dog.
Dog.
Very nice.
Fish.
fish.
School brings refugee children into daily contact with American language and ways. Flexible and energetic, they can easily adapt. But what of their parents? What of their cultural heritage? Some anthropologists project that there will never be a significant Hmong American population, that we may be witnessing one further example of ethnocide, the destruction of the traditional values of a group of people. When the members of a simple society find themselves in the middle of a political storm, surrounded by stronger technologies and more dominant political powers, their entire way of life, centuries of developed cultural values, can be wiped out without anyone even noticing. Very few people choose to examine what of value is being lost. $50,000 Hmong are now dispersed across America, with large groups in St. Paul, Minnesota, Orange County, California, Missoula, Montana, Portland, Oregon, Providence, Rhode Island, and Seattle, Washington. The people in these communities are developing supportive networks, relying upon each other and their leaders to reinstitute their close family and tribal ties. Kang Sao is the leader of the Hmong in Washington State. At a yearly community picnic, he discusses problems facing the Hmong. I look for a job. Everybody expects you to have a degree or experience. I don't have a degree. No degree, no job. We are the lost people. If people in this country had to work as hard as we did, what would they do? If Americans tried to do the work we did in Laos, they couldn't do it. They're too soft. I don't speak English, but I have a dishwashing job. I try to do my best, but I don't know anything. They say, "How are you?" I say, "Okay." They say, "What do you want to eat?" I say, "Okay." They could say, "Eat shit," and I'd say, "Okay." Keep trying. Go to class. Talk with anybody in the kitchen who will talk to you. You know, plates will never say anything to you. Plates don't talk.
要去我的起龙起那年 exercise 打理了顾好莫要我来个做女做马个红过了顾好莫要我旅后得这没干就拉他妈了顾好莫要对地要跟不的要跟莫这个专业要 flow 就用到老了抓住些点去找我讨那少年路过莫无论北乡下达宁的那一下达宁的的还在北海蒙 And to all my brothers and sisters out there you can do anything that you set your mind to stay focused stay dedicated and stay motivated and don't you for 1 second ever be ashamed of where you came from and what you really are Hmong pride to the day we die baby Hmong pride to the day we die baby